have we really maximized our market share on our current marketplace that is already working for us? We obviously are onto something if, we're selling in the millions on these products every year. So that's like the first kind of thought exercise I always push on people. Amazon, it's their customer and they're letting you rent it, but that's why you can hit that velocity so fast of sales if you are onto something. With Shopify, they're not bringing you any customers. Just because you build a store doesn't mean you're going to get sales. And that's a conversation that I need to always have and educate.
Welcome to the Ecom Breakthrough Podcast. Are you ready to unlock the full potential and growth in your business? You've already crossed 7 figures in sales, but the challenge is knowing how to take your business to the next level. Join Josh Hadley, an 8-figure ecom business owner and investor, as he interviews highly successful business owners. Get ready, because you're going to learn specific actions you can take today to help your business reach its full potential and leave a lasting impact on the world.
Welcome to the Ecom Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hadley, where I interview the top business leaders in e-commerce. Past guests include Kevin King, Michael E. Gerber, author of The E-Myth, and Matt Clark from ASM. Today, I'm speaking with Chase Clymer, the co-founder of Electric Eye, and we're going to be talking about why Amazon brands fail on Shopify. This episode is brought to you by Ecom Breakthrough, where I specialize in investing in and scaling 7-figure companies to 8 figures and beyond. If you're an ambitious e-commerce entrepreneur looking for a partner who can help you take your business to the next level, my team and I bring on hands-on experience, strategic insights, and the resources needed to fuel your growth. So if you or somebody you know is ready to scale or looking for an investment partner, reach out to me directly at josh@ecombreakthrough.com. That's ecom with 2 M's. And let's turn your dreams into a reality. Today, I'm excited to introduce y'all to Chase Clymer. Chase is the co-founder of Electric Eye, where he and his team create Shopify-powered sales machines from strategic design and development decisions. He is also the host of the Honest E-commerce podcast. It's a weekly podcast where he provides online store owners with honest, actionable advice to increase their sales and grow their businesses. So welcome to the show, Chase.
Thank you so much for having me. You are a killer at those intros there. No hiccups.
Hey, well, I had to practice. That's why I didn't tell you this, but I was just repeating this for like 20 times before we jumped on the call.
Yeah, it's the inside scoop of being a podcaster.
Chase, super excited to have you on the show. I know I was on your show previously. That's kind of where our connection was made here. But what I am super excited to be talking to you about today is something that I think a lot of Amazon first brand owners, they see Shopify as this like shiny object of like, ooh, if I can do $1 million on Amazon, surely I can turn around and just do $1 million on Shopify if I just open up the Shopify storefront, right? And I think that's a myth, and there's a whole method to the madness. But you're the expert here. Imagine you're talking to a bunch of 7-figure plus Amazon brand owners, and they're looking to diversify. What's your recommendations and what's your insights? What are you talking to them about?
Yeah, I mean, if this isn't a hypothetical conversation, I have this conversation maybe once a month. These people end up, in our inbox, and they kind of want to diversify. So there's a lot of different answers. The first one I think is a little less what people want to hear. It's like, just because you can, should you? It might not be the right move, especially at that time. $1 million isn't that big of a business. Let's be frank, right? And at that scale, a business probably doesn't have a fully fleshed out team in place, and building a completely separate sales channel is a huge investment for a brand at that scale. As far as like time goes and capacity goes, I think that a lot of brands should be doubling down on what's working more often than not. So I think the first argument would be like, is this the right time to do this? There are pros and cons to like how the fees work out, et cetera. But like, just like a really simple answer to question to ask yourself is like, have we really maximized our market share on our current marketplace that is already working for us. We obviously are onto something if, we're selling in the millions on these products every year. So that's like the first kind of thought exercise I always push on people. But, if this brand, they're doing 5-6 million and this really starts to make sense, they have team members that are going to be dedicated to this project and this process, then we start talking about the expectations and kind of what's the difference between Amazon and Shopify. At that, you still have to explain it to people sometimes, right? So I'd say the first thing is, if you are going to build out a new store on Shopify to feature your products, one, those products better make sense in an assortment together. There are successful Amazon brands all over the place, but some of their product offerings are a little chaotic to at the end of the day. So like having, shoelaces next to hair trimmers, next to deodorant, like how do you build a brand around that and build like a marketing funnel to support that? Because at the end of the day, you build this new Shopify store to feature these products or product. You need to drive traffic there. That is the biggest difference between Amazon and Shopify, is that Amazon, it's their customer and they're letting you rent it, but that's why you can hit that velocity so fast of sales if you are onto something. With Shopify, they're not bringing you any customers. Just because you build a store doesn't mean you're going to get sales. And that's a conversation that I need to always have and educate. It's like, we build the most beautiful store in the world. It tells the story of this product. How are you getting customers? And if people can't answer that question, that's not my problem. That's not what my agency does, really, at the end of the day. We're not breaking brands. We're not building net new sales funnels for people. We've just built awesome websites, and we know how to do that really well. Make them pretty, make them sell, make them optimized. But we're not building a funnel around it, and that's a whole different game. And going from 0 to 1 and breaking a new product on its own website like a Shopify, and I'm using Shopify here to stand for any standalone e-commerce like website. Shopify is obviously the best, but WooCommerce or Wix or whatever. Don't use Wix. Don't use Squarespace. But breaking a new brand like that is a skill set in and of itself. So when you're talking about this and thinking about this, and you're like, all right, we're gonna branch this business out off Amazon. I'm sick of giving them those margins. This makes sense for the business. We really have to do it. We have a type of product or products that makes sense to live as a brand on a standalone store. The next thing you should do is obviously find someone to help you build a website, but you also need someone to help you build that marketing funnel. And you need to find someone that has done it before. If they haven't got a case study that shows that they have broke a brand before, and when I say break a brand, it comes from my old life of breaking a band. It's basically like helping a band grow and get a record deal and all. It's like doing that is super hard, and the same thing of like building a business, it's super hard. And if someone doesn't have experience doing it, you're going to be wasting your money because they're not going to do it for the first time with you. Like that's like lightning striking. You need to find someone that has a proven process or a system or experience in really doing it and can explain to you like what that process is going to look like. I don't know how to do it. I've got a few people that I recommend, but I just rambled there, Josh, forever. I saw you taking notes, so I'll let you ask me some follow-ups.
I love it. I do have some notes here for you, and I'm feasting over this because I'm kind of in that area right now where it's like, do we double down on and try to do Shopify? So let's go back to the first thing that you talked about, which you recommended. Sometimes it's better to maybe double down on what's currently working, right? And we've talked about that in previous podcasts as well, which is, hey, before you start to think, hey, I'm going to diversify myself off of Amazon, make sure that you've taken full advantage of everything Amazon has to offer you, right? Do you feel like you've done all your A+ content? You've, gone live on Amazon, like you've done everything you possibly could to maximize your sales on Amazon. Then maybe is the time to start considering this. I'm interested to hear, when do you feel like is the right time? Or is it a revenue threshold? What would you feel are some good indicators that like, okay, now would probably be a good time for you to open up your Shopify storefront?
Yeah. I would say I don't think $1 million a year is the right time, just because the investment that you're going to need to be making, and I'm just assuming you're going to be using paid media to really jumpstart things. But still, like you still need to allocate some sort of marketing and advertising budget to break this new channel the right way. And I think $1 million is just like it's not, the math isn't there yet. I would maybe argue like maybe 5 million makes a little bit more sense as when it might be a time to do it. But it's so funny about just like the doubling down concept. It's something that on the other side of things, like when I'm talking to native Shopify, like DTC first brands like that, they're always thinking about launching on a new marketing channel. And we don't really do any marketing or advertising stuff at the agency, but we're always talking to people about what these things are, because we're like in tandem building the landing pages and doing the CRO with all these growth teams. And sometimes they're like, oh, we're going to try a new channel. And it's like, well, why? Like Meta is crushing for you. Just double your spend there and you're going to get roughly the same results. It's like, why? People, there's this busy work of like, we need to be constantly doing and iterating and trying new things, which is true. But also it's like, you can make your life a lot easier by optimizing the things that work first.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. And I also think that, in businesses, so I love following Alex Hormozy. And one of the things he talks about is, do you understand the true business you are in, right? And the way he kind of frames this approach is as follows, right? You may look at like let's do a local carpet cleaning business, right? You're like, their web presence is terrible. They have really poor marketing, right? Like, I guarantee you, if I own this business, I would turn this thing around in 2 seconds, right? However, the true business of maybe a local carpet cleaning business is this. Can you hire and retain and attract enough local talent to be able to scale that business, right?
Mm-hmm.
The focus of that business is actually more focused not on the marketing. You probably have enough business just from word of mouth, right? Like it's that will keep you busy enough, especially if you have a small team. But if you truly want to scale, you need to have a good process to hire, find, recruit, and retain talent that you're paying probably minimum wage to go clean those carpets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I use that analogy to say, the grass is always greener, right? And sometimes you think, oh, it's going to be so much easier. I have this good idea. Like I see these other people on Amazon crushing it. So surely I just need to upload my product on Amazon and it's going to crush it, or vice versa. I just need to upload my product onto Shopify, run some dumb, meta ads, and I'm off to the races. And I think it's always the devil's in the details.
Well, that's a great a reminder for me of like a talking point for this. And I do this talk track all the time. And it's that the expertise of Amazon is a completely different monster than the expertise of, they call them e-commerce directors usually at like D2C brands. It's like the person in charge of managing all the aspects of like a .com experience. And these days I'm even seeing that they'll have like a head of Amazon and then like a e-commerce director at these companies, because they're just two completely different mindsets and ways to think about things. There's obviously a lot of overlap, and that's true about a lot of job positions. There's a lot of overlap, but like just because you found success on Amazon doesn't mean that you are going to be the person to find success on Shopify. Sure, there's unicorns out there and people are super smart and they can learn whatever they want, but I think it's a little bit hubris to assume that you've got it all figured out. And I think that's probably one of the major ways people go wrong, is they just don't take it seriously, and then they just stand up a store, do it miserably, don't try to do any ads, and then just say that doesn't work for us.
Yeah. And I think here's the other, misconception, right? Is that coming from an Amazon standpoint, if you think that, hey, I'm just going to, create one ad, and that one ad should hopefully, generate some traffic to my Shopify store, and that's my hypothesis. I think that when I have had people that have Shopify first brands on the podcast or whenever I've spoken to them, their business model is completely different than what yours is on Amazon. Guess what yours is on Amazon? On Amazon, you're just trying to find the next niche, the next product that there's prime potential, right? Underserved keywords, competitors that don't have good listings or they don't have the right keywords in their listings. That's your area that you're identifying, and you're probably doing lots of research on a daily basis to uncover those niches, right? On the flip side, I think Shopify First Brands, your entire focus is what is my hook for my ad? And you are constantly coming up with brand new ad types that you can run, because you can't just create one ad and imagine that that ad is going to run for the next 3 or even 12 months on its own. Like, you have to continually come out with fresh new content. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I would even take it a step further. Listening to you kind of break it down that way, I think that the Amazon mindset, now this is probably going to get me canceled, but the Amazon mindset is product first, where the Shopify mindset is customer first, right? Amazon, you're looking for the next product that's going to accelerate through the listings and all that stuff, where on Amazon, it's like, what are my customers saying? And how can I iterate and build something that solves that problem that they're talking about? And it's like just two different ways to approach building, a business.
Yeah, and I think that, the argument from your Amazon customers can be like, well, I read all my competitors' reviews and then I'm tweaking it, I'm refining it so that it makes it a better experience for the customers. But I also agree with you, because on the Shopify front, you need to have a very specific niche audience that you are serving in order for those ads to succeed, right? Yeah. You need to be able to say, like, I'm creating a baby product. However, this baby product is going to be geared towards grandmas purchasing it for their grandchildren. And the reason why you have to get that specific is because that's the riches are in the niches, especially when you're advertising. True or false?
Oh, absolutely. And that's so that brings up another thing is Amazon kind of locks in the amount of customization that you can do to the UX and, what information you can present on that page. Obviously, there's ways to add more flavor and all that stuff. But on Shopify, you can do whatever you want. A lot of people do it. The people that do it themselves often don't have that understanding. There is no crossover between Amazon and say a Shopify build, where the UX choices are often extremely interesting, which are often to the detriment of that net new brand. And so the way that experience is built and the way that customer journey is thought out and the content is laid out and the copy speaks to the problems and the solutions and the benefits of whatever that product is, they need to be as professional as you can afford, I guess, because what that Shopify website doesn't have is the brand trust that the world's largest marketplace has. There's such a difference in level of trust between those, like anything on Amazon versus a standalone store. Amazon's always going to win, and that's why you'll break a lot faster as far as like testing a new product on Amazon. It's because you have that confidence of an Amazon, like, I know I'll get my money back. I know they'll go to bat for me. If this doesn't solve my problem, I have a fear and uncertainty and doubt. All of that's just wiped away by Amazon's insane customer-centric policies, which a standalone store often hasn't really fleshed out yet. And people don't know you from Adam when you're talking about these net new, like, standalone Shopify stores. You have to work to earn that person's trust through a compelling offer, through testimonials, reviews, all these things. That doesn't matter on Amazon, because they go, I know Amazon has my back. I'll take a chance on this weird thing.
Yeah, I love that. Chase, I think this is a great conversation. So let's sum things up. The first question was, hey, how do we know if we're an Amazon first brand? How do we know when it's the right time to go on to Shopify? I think it comes down to these following kind of questions you need to ask yourself. Have you maximized everything you possibly could on Amazon, right? Have you done everything? Have you launched into all the verticals that you wanted to launch into on Amazon? Did you create maximize all the promotions, etc.? Okay, if you've done that and you're probably above $5 million, okay, in revenue, now may be the time that you can consider Shopify. However, you need to ask yourself the following question. Am I willing to start a brand new business? Because these businesses and the focus of these businesses, in my opinion, are two very different skill sets, right? And we discussed that. I think on the Amazon storefront, you're looking for niches, you're looking for opportunities, okay? On the opposite side, for Shopify, you have to get really, really good at creative and advertising. That's like that's the secret sauce. That's a very different skill set, in my opinion, than 99% of the Amazon sellers that I know. They're not advertisers or meta gurus that know how to create good hooks and viral videos and things like that. But you need to get into that frame of mindset. So, which I think, Chase, kind of leads us to the next question, unless you have anything else to add there.
I would just say if you feel that, the answer to those questions are leaning you towards, like, I'm going to build out the Shopify experience, just make sure that the store you're building and the product or products that you're focusing on have a cohesive message together. Maybe you focus on one of your best selling products as like a flagship hero product for this brand you're building out versus trying to throw all 127 SKUs that you have in one internet bodega store. That's always going to fail.
I love that. What would be your recommendation? So that's a good question. So we have 1,500 SKUs on Amazon. If we're to go Shopify, right? It's one thing to open up a Shopify storefront just to show you have presence, right? And list your products there. But we're not heavily like featuring ads and stuff like that on Meta right now. But let's say I do want to. Do you recommend like almost creating like a subdomain of that brand that's like like you're specifically trying to target your hero product?
This is where things get super interesting. I was, 80-20 rule, obviously, like there are going to be certain SKUs that outperform other SKUs. I would say the products that lend themselves a little more towards luxury and less commodity are where you're probably going to find you have an easier time to scale, because I'm assuming you're going to have a little bit more of a margin. You're going to have a higher average order value. So the cost per acquisition against growing that business is going to be an easier time versus if you're trying to sell, an $8 product that also exists on Amazon. People are just going to buy that product on Amazon. So higher average order value is probably something I'd like to keep in mind, $75 or more. Something that is not commoditized a bit. Anything that you have that's super unique and niche is probably going to do well. And then maybe you just tailor the brand around that. And also, it's like, it doesn't have to necessarily be the same name or brand name. It could be you repackage your existing bestseller on Amazon because this thing works because Amazon's already told you it works because it's selling 1 million units a year. Now you just like, all right, we're going to actually we're going to take a step back. We're going to rename this product. We're going to rebrand this product. We're going to build the story out. And we've already got like all these awesome reviews on Amazon to mine to get the information to help us build this whole sales funnel in this standalone website. And then you can just build out a site for that hero product. And then the next things you want to do is kind of maybe think about what are those add-on products that will help increase that average order value, that will bundle together well, help you with kind of building out those offers for those sales funnels. But yeah, there isn't a single right answer here. But the wrong answer is taking all of your products and making the internet bodega.
I love it. All right, Chase. So we've agreed that we think that Shopify may be on the roadmap for us. So if that's the case, one thing that you talked about previously is finding somebody, an expert that has kind of broke a brand on Shopify before. I want to go deeper into that. What does that mean? What type of unicorn type of guy am I looking for, guy or gal? And what do they do? What experience do they come with? How do I find them, etc.?
Yeah, so this is going to be a growth marketing agency is the names that they're all going under these days. Not my agency. We build cool websites. So what these companies are, the case studies that you're going to want to have to find is like them taking a product from $0 in sales to actual sales, right? And the reason that they'd be interested in your business and be excited about it is because you already have product market fit proven, because you have this high velocity of sales on Amazon. So that's going to make these companies be like, oh, like this will work. We just have to figure out how to make it work. It's no longer a question of will this work. It's like, this will work. Well, we have to figure out how. And that's the cool thing about having that kind of like existing social proof of like this thing sells on Amazon. And so what you're going to be talking to these companies about is just like, what does this look like? They're going to be giving you recommendations on like what the investment's going to be on ad spend. Obviously, they're going to take some cut of that or have some sort of fee involved in that. But that's going to be outside of building the website. That's going to be the majority of your cost, especially going into this as like, this is a new business. You should, hire us or someone like us and do something templated, make it straightforward, focus on the copy and the content. You don't need a custom website because, again, this is a net new business line. That's the way I always like to make people think about it. Pretend you're a startup. Like, this is a new thing. You need to be cautious about your spends so you can hit kind of ROI a lot faster. And people get caught up in custom and all these things. And it's like, first of all, I can show you a dozen websites that are all the same template and you would never know. Second, custom is just more investment from a development perspective, time in there with the code, from QA, and obviously design. Like, all these people are involved, extends the timeline of these projects. And at the end of the day, these choices that you're making are maybe coming from a personal preference and not the preference of your customer. So you could argue that it's just a waste of money and time. But I'll pause there because I see you nodding and I know you got some follow-ups.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting, is like approaching this from like, I'm starting this as a brand new business, right? And so you don't need to go all out. And I think I've heard this time and time again where it's like, you'd be surprised how many people are just using one of the Shopify theme templates, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't need to spend 5, 10, 20K designing your website and spending all of that money. It's almost like, all right, get your minimum viable product up and running first. See if you can at least gain some traction. See if if you start running ads, see if your customer acquisition cost is in somewhat of a ballpark. And if you say, hey, this looks like it has potential, then you could maybe focus in on the CRO optimization, refining things on your, maybe that's where you start going into the customizations. So if we're looking for like a growth marketing agency, are those the type of guys that like, they're going to help you create your hook and your meta ad? They're going to think of like, hey, I think we should really target grandmas who are buying these type of products for their grandchildren. Like, is that the people, or do you almost need to have that already set up yourself?
Well, you can have assumptions about your ideal customer profile, but I think also going into things with an open mind, especially when you don't really have, I don't know how much data you can get out of Amazon. Can you find that data in Amazon? Like, who's buying things?
No, I mean, the best you could do is, you're reading the reviews. So yeah. It would be public info anyways, right?
Yeah. But I mean, so these growth teams, yeah, they're going to help you come up with some ideation on the offers, the hooks, etc. And the way that, so now it depends on like what your product assortment is, right? So if you build out a store and it's like one hero product, you got like one kind of straightforward funnel. You can even probably just build out a landing page on Shopify that allows you to kind of iterate through a couple of headlines, a couple of pitches, a couple of offers, all that jazz, really starting to see what resonates. But, on the flip side, if you had, something that had, like a dozen SKUs, maybe you're not going directly to that hero product. You're going to like your best-selling collection page or maybe if it's something that lends itself a little bit to a bundling, you make sure that functionality is filled out on the website. But yeah, at the end of the day, the growth team is going to help you with ads, hopefully content creation of the ads, the hook, the offer, implementing those ads, and then reading that data and helping to then suggest iterations on those ads to help bring down those costs and improve those KPIs that both teams are looking for, which at the end of the day is going to be sales. But before you really start to hit the sales, it's, click-through rates, it's time on site, it's a little bit more indicating factors.
I love it. Chase, it sounds expensive. So that's my next question to you. So let's say, again, for all intents and purposes, anybody that's an Amazon brand owner that wants to take their brand onto Shopify, or some guy just coming out of college that's like, I want to create my own Shopify storefront. They're basically starting at zero.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How much money, if you're talking to one of either of these people, how much money are you telling people, like, you need to be able to bring X amount of capital to create your store, work with a growth partner, and be able to spend on advertising? Do you know what you'd be budgeting?
Yeah. And, obviously you get what you pay for at the end of the day. And I know that where we're priced in the ecosystem is a little high for a net new brand, but it's also, we'll do it right the first time extremely well. So I would say if you're going to spend less than $10,000 on building a net new store, you might not be happy with the result. And you can find people on Reddit complaining about that specific price point all the time. Shopify does a fantastic job of talking about how easy their platform is, maybe to the detriment of the actual customer experience. There's so much in that product now. And I just think if I was going to try to build out something on Amazon, I'd be lost for days and weeks trying to do it the right way. So there's obviously that opportunity cost of, do you want it done the right way, or do you want to save money? So keep those things in mind. If we were going to launch a net new brand and we're just building up the site, our budgets are probably going to come in between 20 or 30,000 in explaining all the bells and whistles that we believe you also need to do this the right way. Things that aren't native to Shopify, understanding the ecosystem, the integrations, all that jazz. We're just going to get you set up the right way in a timeline that makes sense. Or, there's other people out there that will do it for less. There's people out there that will gladly charge you more. But that's kind of a realistic expectation if you're going to use an actual subject matter expert. Obviously, there's also fluctuations between what market it is that people that you're talking to are. And then on the side of ads and stuff, if you're going to give this a real good shake, and again, we're talking about an Amazon brand that's coming over, so they should have a bit of budget to earmark over here. You shouldn't come into whatever channel you're launching on. I'm assuming it's going to be Meta or Google. With less than $10,000 a month should be your expected spend. But obviously, you're going to scale up to that on the first couple of months as you're trying to figure out what hook and all sorts of jazz works the right way. And then kind of, as long as your KPIs are hitting the right way, kind of scale that thing to infinity. It's the same thing on Amazon.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. So you would budget what, 10 grand for the website?
I would say minimum, 10 grand minimum.
Okay. How much are you budgeting for the growth partner?
It's all over the place these days on what these people are charging. But roughly they're charging 20% a month of what you're spending. So if you're spending 10 grand a month for 3-6 months, that's $6,000 to $12,000 that they're taking. That's
okay.
$3,000 to $6,000 that you're giving to whatever this marketplace, whatever this advertising platform is. So let's just say, and then also I think 3 months is not necessarily long enough to actually see results when it comes to trying to break a net new brand. I think it's 6 months or a year. You have to really make this investment into figuring out where those customers are, which messaging is resonating. Because again, Amazon has all of the customers in the world and all of the brand trust in the world. And if you have a product that makes sense on there, they'll buy. But you're starting from zero. You don't have any of that stuff. You're going to need to be finding out those customers, finding that message that works. Slowly, you'll start building out that social proof through testimonials and unboxing videos and user-generated content and just slowly adding all these trust factors to the website over time. But yeah, it's a bit of an investment. And that's, I think, what scares a lot of people is the velocity at which Amazon works versus building a net new brand is kind of scary to people.
Yeah.
But also the margin's awesome once you figure it out.
Yeah, I think that part is super enlightening, right? And maybe just like a complete different mindset shift, because it is true, like on Amazon, there are some brand owners, and I think these are the bigger brands that have deeper pockets, that like they're willing to lose money for 6 to 12 months, right? And so they're like, "Yep, this is an investment. It will pay off down the road." Whereas I would argue most of the Amazon sellers, like, they're going to go into the red probably for the first month or two, but then they see like, oh, the flywheel's already starting to churn. Like, I'm going to be profitable here month 3 or 4. Whereas, and I guess, what has been your experience whenever you've worked with net new brands? Is it a 6 to 12 month haul?
Well,
just
it
figure
depends
things
on
out?
what your go-to-market strategy is. We just worked with a brand. It's not live yet, but they're partnered with an influencer with 10 million followers on TikTok that's very specific to their audience. So it's just whenever they say go, we know that thing's going to work well, right?
Okay.
But on the flip side, if we're working with a startup that's got some funding and we build the thing out, we're always like, all right, well, what's your go-to-market strategy? Like, it's we build the most beautiful, like, let's just pretend we're talking about brick and mortar shops, right, Josh?
Yep.
So we build the coolest brick and mortar thing ever. Like, architecture inside's awesome, the layout just makes a lot of sense, it's got really cool music in there too, right? But it's in the middle of the desert, right? That's like, no one's going to get there. Like, how are
Yep.
you going to get people to this place? How are you marketing this thing? How are you going to get that foot traffic to your store? It's the same thing with a website. Just because it's online doesn't mean you'll get sales. You need to have a marketing strategy. You need to know what that is. And obviously, we talked a lot about paid and setting budgets for paid today. But I think what a lot of brands are doing these days that are actually helping them break things a lot faster is they're doing kind of what's called like influencer seeding. And so they're finding these micro, macro, or whatever influencers, not, million followers, but like, 5,000, 8,000, 20,000 followers that are in their niche, and they're just giving without an expectation of their product, sampling their product out to hundreds of these people.
Okay.
And then that will help kick that flywheel a lot faster. They'll get, if these people are posting about the product and they start to establish, affiliate relationships with these folks, that will send traffic back to their standalone store a little bit quicker, which then all of that traffic they can retarget. That makes their advertising efforts a lot better because it's learning these are the types of people that are interacting and buying with the site and buying this product. So that's a way that oftentimes people are kind of getting there a little bit quicker. And I think that's, if I was to launch a brand, haven't found anything that's tickled my fancy just yet, but that would be the way I would do it, is influencer seeding strategy into remarketing. And obviously then from there, branching out into prospecting.
Okay. I love that. So you're going out, you're giving out lots of free samples to people. They're on Instagram, TikTok, whatever. You're just saying, hey, talk about my product. And are you having them link? Are you like creating like an affiliate link for them to say like, hey, share this, you get 20%?
So this strategy
is
from a friend of mine's agency, and they just say, what's your address? I'm sending you a free product, no expectations.
And they're not signing. They're not asking them to become like
they're
an
not
affiliate.
asking them for anything. They're just following their socials and seeing what happens.
So you're hoping that influencer is just going to speak highly about your product.
Yeah.
And say your brand name, but not even linking to your website.
Well, so here's what happens. Some people will like the product, some people will use it, and some people will feature it because, the way the relationship started with no expectation. And then there are ways to follow these people and see if these tags happen, and you can reach out after the fact and be like, hey, like, would you like an affiliate thing? Can we repurpose this for advertising purposes? Like, there's a few asks involved there.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Now here's what I would encourage. So here's my secret hack that I'm going to share on this, because we got onto TikTok Shop, and I think TikTok Shop literally is, from what I've heard from a lot of like previous influencer affiliate marketing managers, they said TikTok Shop has built everything that we possibly could have dreamed of in any software, because it's showing you all the data. from all of these influencers how much money they've been able to generate, how many views their videos get. It follows them. If you send them a sample, it will say whether or not they posted a video about that sample that you gave them, etc. So what we've been doing is just like continuing to give out samples to all those TikTok creators, right? Similar to yourself, where it's like there's no expectations. And, some of those videos have gone viral, which are great. But, on the flip side, I hear so many people like, oh, don't send out a sample unless you give them like really clear guidelines of like, this is how I want you to talk to the product.
No. I would say no. I would say that you're boxing yourself in and you're not allowing yourself to be creative, your brand to be creative, your influencers to be themselves. Because why, like, you're selling yourself short. It's like, what if the way that this influencer is going to talk about your product, which is off-brand, and I think that's the dumbest thing in the world, but like the modern advertising is UGC, right? So you're telling this creator, don't talk about the product in the way you want to talk about it. Talk about it in the way I want to talk about it.
Yep.
That will not work as well as the creator talking about it in the way that is authentic to them, authentic to what their audience expects, and will go way better just letting them do what they want to do.
Yeah. Makes tons of sense. Tons of sense. Okay, I love this. All right, so now, Chase, we're on this. We've dove down the rabbit hole of how do you get traffic to your Shopify storefront. I think the first thing we talked about was evident: Meta ads, TikTok ads. Okay, but you just brought up a great strategy, which is influencer seeding, just giving out hundreds of free samples, no expectations, and then remarketing to those people. You said if you were to start a brand today, that's the strategy you would take. Absolutely. And then kind of scale up from there.
This is a question that I ask so on my podcast, Honest E-commerce, available where they are available. I interview, the main feed is me interviewing brands that are Shopify first, usually, or just direct consumer first. And one of the questions I'm asking every one of them is like, how did you get your first customers? And I'm doubling down to is like, what was the strategy that actually helped you go from 0 to 1, and you actually had like a repeatable flywheel of getting customers? And there are a million different ways that people were getting customers, but some of the standouts are that weren't mentioned here, but were like going to where their customers were, so like trade shows or farmers markets or conventions, like, and doing the things that don't scale and talking in person. Like that's a strategy that came up again and again and again when I asked this question. One of my favorites was, though, I had a gentleman on the show, and I'm not remembering his name, but he had a advanced pool filter product, right? And the way that they were getting customers was, this is so like San Francisco, like hacking, like growth hacking thing. So how they were getting customers was, he was getting on Google Maps and looking at finding neighborhoods that had a lot of pools, and then joining their Facebook groups and asking, who do you use to clean your pool? And then coming back a week later and saying, oh, I'm using this guy, and like planning his like smart pool cleaner. And like, that's how they started to acquire their first round of customers.
Wow. That's fascinating. I love it. Okay. So give me some more, Chase, because I think this is super valuable. I mean, you've had hundreds of interviews with these Shopify store owners. What else are some creative ways that you're seeing people go from 0 to 1? And as many details as you can share.
I kind of alluded to it earlier, is like partnering with someone that already has an audience. So if you can get some sort of celebrity involved in the brand, or athlete or whatever, someone that's coming to the table with an audience, like that's obviously going to help you out. The grind of like, that's what makes or breaks any brand. Not even if you're coming over from Amazon, just like getting started with building a brand on online. It's getting customers that aren't your friends and family is the hardest thing. So traditional advertising is not something that has ever really came up. So like TV ads or whatever, like it still exists and it still works. Heck, one of our clients is like a big as seen on TV conglomerate. Like we know that still works, which funny enough, they're shifting. It's no longer like 1-800 numbers. They're sending them the landing pages that my team's building. It's crazy.
Interesting. That's
Yeah.
cool.
But obviously, like paid through TikTok, Meta, and Google is often the way that people are building a brand, but it's very expensive, and it's usually like two different camps of people. It's an entrepreneur that tried a bunch of people, and then they said, I'm going to learn how Facebook ads work myself, and then that's when it clicked for their business. Or it's entrepreneurs that were lucky enough to know someone that had done it before, and they paid them what they were worth to do it again.
Okay. I'm curious for the other brands that you said, like, that kind of got their start at like trade shows or farmers markets, like the things that don't scale. Give me, like, how does that work? Like, you're at a farmers market and you're telling people like, oh, check out my website. And
no, they're trying to sell the product in person to people, and they're getting immediate product feedback from them. I've had a gentleman on the show that has a huge coffee company that's got a bunch of different sub brands now, and he said that between maybe 2000 and 2020, he's like, I think I personally gave away 1,000 cups of coffee at Costco. He's like, and I give away a cup of coffee, and then someone might buy a bag, and he's like that is probably responsible for $100 million in sales.
Fascinating.
Him as the founder of the company did this, right? And that's not something that really necessarily could scale, but it does work once kind of that flywheel kind of gets in place. And, other things would be, it's like, think about what problem is your product solving, right? And so another example I had was like a guy built out, he had a hat that had a strap on it. You know how you have the sunglasses with the strap so you don't lose it in the water, right? He built a hat with the same thing, but it was more of like a modern hat and not like a I don't know, an older looking hat. Anyways, but he would go to like where his customers were. So he'd go to like kayaking events and stuff, and he'd just put up a booth there and talk to people and have them, rip his product apart. And so he'd go build a better product. And like just getting that one-on-one customer feedback is so important into building a superior product and learning how to message that product to the customer and talk about the problems that they have.
Okay. I love that. Does it make more sense to have a product that is more of like subscription based, like the coffee example, like, is that where, like, I could see like going to farmers markets and being like, hey, like, I'm seeding and I'm giving away a bunch of, coffee cups because I know if you get hooked on my coffee, you're going to come back, right? If you love it so much. I'm curious to hear your kind of take on that and whether, like,
I love subscription businesses.
Okay.
I think that they're super fun. I think that it kind of it has the advantages of subscription businesses is like it's usually like one funnel and message and flywheel that you're optimizing. So that's oftentimes like kind of cool. So anything that is consumable can lend itself to a subscription business. So it doesn't have to be edible. It could be soap. It could be dog food, right? There's like all sorts of different things that can do a subscription element to it. And I was just on a podcast yesterday talking about how subscription is very, it's a difficult concept to explain, A, to a computer, and B, then like talk about it. So a lot of people are like, I want a subscription company and I'm building a subscription brand. And you're like, well, what is the subscription? And they can't really articulate what it is. It's just like they sign up and they get it every month, every 2 weeks. Can I pause? Can I skip? Can I get more? Can I get less? And those are, you really have to walk through all of those things. Your question is a subscription business better? No. Like any business can be great, but like I find them very interesting. I find them they're definitely in an investor's eyes like superior. People love seeing that recurring revenue on the books. But inherently, I don't think they're any better or worse than something that's, someone selling, say, a flagship product, once every so often.
Yeah. Okay. Have you seen any creative, maybe like subscription models or like membership models? Like my favorite analogy is like, so the Whoop band, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have the Whoop band. They have a Whoop Pro membership. So not only do you have to be a member and pay a monthly rate just to have your Whoop in and of itself, then they have an additional membership, which is Whoop Pro, which is what, $20 or $9 a month or something like that. But every quarter you can get a new band of your color of your choice for free. You get 20% off any of their other accessories. I can't remember some of the other bonuses, right? Maybe early access to certain stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That, in my opinion, is a very creative way. Maybe if you don't have I think it's very straightforward. I have a consumable item or soap that's like, you're going to need to come back and get it at some point. But for somebody that doesn't, like, let's say you're buying a poster for your children's bedroom, like, well, probably not for another 5 years till you want to redecorate. Do you need another poster for your child's bedroom, right? Now, there might be other products you could offer them for sure. But any creative ways that you've seen kind of like membership or subscription rolled into any of these e-commerce brands you've worked with?
Yeah, so I think membership is a fantastic thing to bring up. And obviously, like some of these ideas we're talking about now are like things you can't necessarily do as well on Amazon, like building out these bundles that have maybe subscription and one-off stuff, and then building out these membership things. Like these are reasons to go beyond the Amazon platform. So an interesting thing I see all the time in like the supplement space is usually these brands are, the person behind them is like a personality that's probably in a heck of good shape, right? And they always have a unique story, and these like supplements are speaking to kind of unique problems to solve. And so like if you subscribe to the supplement for X amount of it every so often, like also usually are getting like access to like a library of either weight loss tactics or like meal plans or exercise routines. So like there's this digital element to it that's pretty easy. So that's like a cool way I've seen memberships work out in tandem with like a subscription item. But also like on another side, memberships are extremely powerful for things that can't do subscription. Like for example, like a home goods company, I don't need to buy a new dining room chair every month, but I could show the brand loyalty to this brand and sign up and join their membership, and then I'm always getting 15% off and free shipping, free express shipping on every single order. And once a quarter I can have a one-on-one with an interior designer, or there's personalized product recommendations for me because I'm in this membership. So there's ways to think of the value beyond just like discounting a product or giving away something for free. Like there are reasons consumers find value in things that aren't like the actual product at the end of the day.
I love that. Love it. Chase, this has been fantastic. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you think we'd be amiss if we didn't discuss today?
No, I mean, the only other thing is at the agency, we do a lot of migrations and net new builds. And then we also do a lot of conversion rate optimization. And we have just kind of launched that as a standalone business as of late. So if you head over to storetester.com and you are already on Shopify, if you're doing kind of north of 5 million, because that's what we need for the metrics to actually work, we'll launch your first test for free, straight up.
That's awesome. Dude, that's a solid offer. That's a solid offer.
Absolutely. And it has to be kind of that high because you need to be able to hit statistical significance in like a short enough time frame to make it make sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. So not for the beginners, but for those
unfortunately
people
not, no, but it's something to aspire to.
That is. I love it. All right, Chase. I love to leave each episode at the end with 3 actionable takeaways for our audience. So here are the 3 actionable takeaways that I noted, Chase. You let me know if I'm missing something here. But number 1, I think changing the mindset of how you're going to approach business and understanding that if you're an Amazon first brand, know that the skill set that brought you success on Amazon is probably not going to be the skill set that's going to bring you success on Shopify. See them as 2 completely different businesses. See that a Shopify brand, they are probably really good at either of the following: either influencer marketing and they've got a partnership with somebody, or they've also gotten really good at advertising and they know how to churn out viral videos. They understand the hooks. They understand, and it literally is a numbers game. Again, going back to Alex Hormozy, he said what he did with his brand, they were doing 100 pieces of creative every single week, right? For an e-commerce storefront. So like, if that's not what you're willing to do, maybe that's not the right approach for you. So That's action item number one, is having that mindset shift and understanding that the grass isn't always greener. Understand what you're signing up for if you move either direction to Amazon or vice versa. Action item number two is, once you've identified that, hey, Shopify seems like it might be a good option for me. I loved your approach of approaching this with like, what is your go-to-market strategy? And I think you shared some very actionable insights with the go-to-market strategy. Your first recommendation for yourself is, I'm going to just do influencer seeding. Reach out to a bunch of micro influencers, 5,000, 10,000 followers, whatever. I'm just sending them product. And that's it. No strings attached. I'm going to see what happens. And then I'm going to cookie them so that when they come to my Shopify storefront, I can start then sending them remarketing ads on Meta, on TikTok, Google, etc. And that would be an easier flywheel. Alternatively, you go what you said, maybe a more expensive, more difficult route is straight Meta, Google, TikTok ads right from the beginning. So having your go-to-market strategy, and I think being very clear with that, is going to make all the difference. And then last but not least, I would say adding on a membership or subscription model to your business. And I think this is personally my appeal to wanting to do something off of Amazon, because I'm a huge proponent of, like, if you can start igniting recurring revenue into your business, and hypothetically speaking, could you change your business model by saying, you know what, I can be the low cost leader on Amazon, because what it's doing is it's sending more people back to my website where I'm funneling everybody into a membership model. The secret behind my brand, the reason why I can have really low margins on Amazon, is because I have a membership program that's growing and growing every single day. So that's kind of a recommendation, is another reason why you might make that argument for Shopify. So Chase, is there anything else that we missed in terms of an action item for our audience?
No, I thought this was a fantastic conversation, and I tried to be as honest and open about kind of how I would approach these things. But I do think that Amazon's fees are never going to go down. So if this is something that you've been thinking about, the time is probably correct to start reaching out to some people. Just knowing when this episode is going to come out, though, I wouldn't really think you can get anything done before Black Friday, Cyber Monday. The ship's probably sailed there. So just take a deep breath and just kind of give it the right amount of time and let it go live when it goes live.
Love it. Great insight. Great action item there.
Also a terrible time to launch a brand. How ads are so expensive during that time.
And that's really good to know as well. So, Chase, here are the following 3 questions that I like to ask each guest. So, question number 1, what's been the most influential book that you've read and why?
Ooh, it's a fantastic question. So, I don't know if it was necessarily the most influential, but this one changed my business, which basically changed my life, was I actually read Traction by Gino Wickman, I would guess 7 years ago. Before that, we were just a bunch of dummies, like doing freelancing under the same name. After that, we started to build a business with processes, with understanding what our goals were, making sure everyone was going towards that vision of the company. Just we kind of run a modified version of EOS at our business because we're a small boutique team. We don't have the leadership structure to really run actual EOS. Book is boring as heck, let's be real, but reading it is worthwhile.
Yeah, I completely agree. That business operating system, whether you're a 5-person team or a 30, a 300-person team, 3,000-person team, like, it is super invaluable to make sure that even if it's 5 people, you're all rowing in the same direction and that there's a method to the madness, and it's going to set yourself up to be able to scale. So
can I mention a second book, though, that
Let's
we
hear
read
it.
like less than a month later, was Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. That changed my bank account.
Hey, and that's even better. That's what we're in business for, right? Love that.
Absolutely. Those are, I recommend both those books to every entrepreneur that I see actually has that like star and they're really in their eye. They're actually going to put in the work. I'm like, go read these 2 books and then talk to me later.
Love it. Chase, here's the second question that I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to flip it a little bit than what I told you about before.
Okay.
What is your favorite AI tool that you've been utilizing, or you see other e-commerce brands utilizing that you think is effective?
I mean, I hate to be the answer this question with the same question. Like everyone's saying ChatGPT, but we use it a lot in our business, and I can kind of explain what we're doing and even give you some prompts.
That'd be great.
One thing we're doing, if we're building a net new brand, or if we're actually building something out for an Amazon brand, like we're not asking them for copy. We're just using AI generated copy based upon on their product listing to like help us just get the site done faster. And a lot of that copy ends up just being the copy that exists on the website because it does a pretty decent job of giving you kind of that MVP. Doubling down there, we are using AI to help us write the copy for landing pages and offers and stuff like that based upon kind of just really, really simple inputs, right? So the other day, me and my business partner were kind of just being like, well, how good can this be? Like, we're going to build a landing page out for one of our clients' flagship product. It's a skincare product. And all I did was into ChatGPT, I pay for the nice one. It's like $20 a month or whatever. But I said, write me a landing page layout for this product. And I just linked the actual product page listing using this format. And I linked to the AIDA formula, which is like a landing page copywriting thing that stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. And it just pooped out an outline. I was like, this is better than sometimes the first version of an outline that we ask like our writers for. So it's just using the tools that are available to you, using AI to help you go from 0 to 1, I think is like the best way to use it. And this one necessarily isn't e-commerce. This is just me in my life. I use it for writing a lot, where I'll just use talk to text on my phone and just get my ideas out of my head in a terrible way. And I'm like, can you format this in a better way? And then I use that to actually continue writing.
I love that. Yeah, I love that, AI can give you that first real good push, right? I think it's pretty rare to say like, oh, I copied and pasted it and I never had to edit anything, right? I think that it gets you 80% of the way there. And then you make some modifications. You're like, ooh, this was a really good first draft.
But I think that just goes back to creativity. It's hard to look at a blank page. It's hard to look at a blank canvas. But if you can have AI, like this is my goal, and here are some other things that I know that we want to do with this goal. Can you give me a good first draft? And it's like, even if it's off base, you know why it's off base. You're like, well, that gives me this idea. And then you're off to the races.
Yeah. Love that. Love it. Great use case scenarios. Thank you for that, Chase. All
Absolutely.
right. Final question here. Who is somebody that you admire or respect the most in the e-commerce space that other people should be following, and why?
Well, I bet a lot of your listeners already follow Kurt Elster, but that guy, he changed my outlook and mindset on business. The first day I met him, I had a scarcity mindset about business, and I was a little aggressive about competitors. And Kurt changed my entire outlook with one conversation. And a rising tide raises all ships. He's been a great friend and mentor. Everyone go check out Kurt Elster. The Unofficial Shopify Podcast is his podcast. I think it might be the biggest one in our space. But he is a very genuine human. He's a nice guy, and he made me a better person.
That's awesome. I think that's a really good insight for like flipping your mindset shift in terms of like, are you really competing with your competitors and focusing on yourself? So I love that.
I mean, we could talk about that for a little bit longer. I think that the biggest coaches in my life that I've learned the most from, and our biggest like referral network are our direct competitors. If you can be friendly with the person selling the same thing you're selling, you're going to both grow because there is absolutely enough out there. And it's just a better way to live your life. This translates beyond business. Having an abundance mindset just makes you happier in general, versus thinking, at some point it's finite. Life is finite. Things are finite. I think that's stressful.
I love that. Good words of wisdom. Chase, if other people want to follow you, they want to learn more about you, reach out, have you do a website for them, where can people find you?
Yeah. Well, first, if you want to listen to me interview brands, or obviously I had Josh on, we do bonus episodes all the time. honestecommerce.co. Honest E-commerce is the podcast. It's available wherever podcasts are. That's a great way to kind of just, keep in touch and learn from things. The agency is electriceye.io. You can kind of head over there, click a contact form, schedule a call. You're going to schedule it with me. And then if that like CRO thing sounded interesting to you, that is storetester.com.
Awesome. Chase, this has been super valuable. Thanks for your time today.
Absolutely. I had a blast.
Thank you for listening. Visit ecombreakthrough.com for more information. If you've enjoyed today's episode, the best way you can show your appreciation is by clicking the subscribe button and quickly leaving a review. See you again next time.